Well, hey, all you wiretappers out there back here in the studio of Gangland Wire. This is Gary Jenkins, retired Kansas City Police Intelligence Detective, here to bring you another mafia biography. I've been doing these short bios to make sure everybody, when we talk about, we mention a name, you have someplace to go to say, hey, let's look back on the website, or because there'll be like the whole transcript will be on the website, and a synopsis of what I'm about to say about whatever mobster it is that I'm discussing. So we're going to go to Chicago outfit. In the 1960s, there was a man by the name of Charles Chucky Nicoletti who was questioned by some FBI agents, one of whom was Bill Romer Jr., who you all know, or a lot of you outfit guys will have heard of Bill Romer, the FBI agent. He wrote several books, and he's often cussed and discussed about how truthful he is in his books. He probably does use a little literary devices, a little literary license, as we say, to make a story come together and make it a little bit better. But tried to turn him as an informant. And according to Romer, Chucky, the typewriter Nicoletti, gave him the names of several car dealerships that he worked at. He was very cordial, and they went back out and they checked all the employment leads, and there was always somebody there to say, oh yeah, he worked there. And he never flipped on anybody and never talked to the FBI after that, other than, I suppose, maybe say hi. These guys will always drop by somebody's house or their place of employment or their business, or see them on the street and just start trying to talk to them. Now, eventually there was some information in Chicago that he flipped, but I just don't know. And during the 1960s, Chicago Tribune did report on Nicoletti meeting on a regular basis with the chief of police of the Chicago suburb of Melrose Park, where I believe he lived. The chief, Dominic Simoneau, had been born and raised in Melrose Park, so they probably knew each other, and he came up through the ranks of that department, been a sergeant, and he eventually became the chief when the old longtime chief had resigned, or retired rather. Chicago Tribune reporters at the time, the Tribune they were like all over the place on these mob guys up in Chicago. And they found that he was meeting him on a real regular basis at the same place, as actually it was weekly, Slicker Sam's Bar in Melrose Park. Now, Slicker Sam's was a mob-associated owned bar. A guy named Sam Slick Rosa owned this bar, and nothing really seemed to come out of this discovery. They never got anything on this chief of police, Simoneau, but they did find he'd once appeared in a traffic court and put a good word in for another low-level outfit guy who was there on a speeding ticket, like big-time corruption there. This is just one of the many, many instances where the Chicago outfit and some police, law enforcement, prosecutor, judge, lawyers, had some professional or not professional, friendly sort of relationship, and they knew each other. And, a lot of people like to gamble. And Chicago outfit they ran all the gambling. It was pretty open in many ways in Chicago, especially like the horse races, and they had off-track betting. If you wanted to go throw money down on the horse race up at Arlington, you had a mob guy, or sports betting, of course. So that's a lot of where meet them in bars. That's a lot of where that interaction in, mid-level, lower-level criminal justice system people and governmental officials might hook up with mob guys. It was more of a friendly kind of a thing. Now, Nicoletti, it's been alleged over his lifetime he was involved in as many as 20 mob hits. In 2010, Playboy magazine published an article by a guy named Hillel Levin, and he implicated Chucky Nicoletti in the assassination of President Kennedy, JFK's assassination. And there was a guy who was an inmate in the Illinois Department of Corrections named James Files at the time, had gotten somebody's attention and was making these allegations. Now, to go back a little bit, Nicoletti was born like 1916, I believe, in Chicago. He was, grew up, his parents were Italian immigrants from Sicily, and they lived on what we call the near west side, close to downtown. That's kind of where I think the patch is, over there on the west side, and close to downtown. And an interesting sidelight, Chucky Nicoletti shot his father 4 times in self-defense. His father was a drunkard and had attacked Chucky many times during his young life, and he was pursuing him with a knife, and he got to the gun that they had stashed or in a desk drawer, a bedroom, a sock drawer or something, and turned around and shot his father 4 times and killed him. And he was exonerated by the coroner's office. They had a coroner's inquest and said, self-defense. He dropped out of school and he joined the 42 gang. Now, the 42 gang, I've said this many times. I always like to remind you guys that it's not because there's 42 members. It was because they said that Alibaba and the 40 Thieves was 41, and they wanted to have one more than Alibaba's gang, so they were the 42 gang. And everybody came up through that. Teach Battaglia, Lou Farrell, later actually Louis Fratto, Mad Sam DeStefano, Willie Potatoes Dadano, Sam Giancana. I mean, all these guys came up through that 42 gang, it seemed like. He hooked up with Felix Alderisio, Milwaukee Phil, and this pair was like the most feared pair of hitters in Chicago. They were the guys that the Chicago police caught sitting in a hit car and there was pictures of the paper and the paper of it. They had these hidden compartments for guns. It was like a 62 Ford, I believe. And they were running surveillance on somebody. And it was about the time they were getting ready to take out the M&M brothers or the M&M friends, Jimmy Moralia and Billy McCarthy. They had killed a couple of outfit associate guys for actually no reason. Somehow, for some reason, I don't remember the exact reason, Accardo said they got to go. Milwaukee Phil Alderisio and Chucky Nicoletti, and they recruited Tony Spilatro, the aunt Spilatro, kidnapped these two guys. There's a famous story where Frank Culata said that he helped set up Morale, I believe, for Spilatro. He said, I didn't know what they were going to do with these guys. He said, I thought they just wanted to talk to them. But he set them, and they got set up, and that's where they got McCarthy first. And the famous scene out of Casino where Joe Pesci has a guy's head in a spot in a vice where the famous scene out of the famous scene out of Casino where Tony Spilatro has a man's head in a vice and he's squeezing it. Well, that really happened here. Tony Spilatro put Billy McCarthy's head in a vice and squeezed it, and one eye popped out of its socket. And another thing that came out of this is Culata will say that Spilatro told him that Nicoletti was such a cold-hearted dude that he was sitting over to the side while they were doing this torture, eating a plate of spaghetti, just as the eyeball pops out. He said, man, he said, this is a heartless dude. So if anybody knows about how Nicoletti got his nickname, the Typewriter, let me know. But needless to say, this is a little overview of the kind of cases that he was involved in Chicago for the outfit. He did get, maybe they made up this story about him starting to snitch or something, but he got on the outs. And in 1977, he's sitting in his Oldsmobile in the parking lot of the Golden Horns restaurant in suburban North Lake, Illinois. Somebody walked up and shot him 3 times in the back of the head. I don't know whether they got him to look the other way or somebody was already in the back seat of the car. There wasn't any witnesses to this. It's just another mob hit where he killed him in his car, which is a good deal because all the evidence is inside the car. While he sat there dead, his car kept running. It overheated and it actually caught on fire. So eventually, and the newspapers got there. When the firemen got there, and then they found the dead body in there and they figured out it was a mob hit. The newspapers at first reported it was a firebomb, but he was shot and the car just overheated and started burning. It was a real story on that. What's another interesting coincidence and weird coincidence, I mentioned about this whole JFK implication and some guy in the prison, drops his name. Well, there was another guy named George D. Morenschild, something like that. It's kind of a hard name, who was called to testify in front of the committee investigating the assassination, and he got killed on the same day that Nicoletti got killed. So, go figures. Truth is stranger than fiction sometimes. Most people would believe that IUPA, actually not Accardo, ordered the murder of Nicoletti because Nicoletti was really closely aligned with Giancana. They murdered Giancana already in the famous murder where he's in his basement cooking sausages and peppers, and the caretaker at the house, goes down and finds him dead down there. Most people claim that I think Butch Blasi probably did that, who was a real close friend of Giancana. Giancana, Nicoletti, Sam DeStefano were all closely aligned with Paul Ricca. Well, Paul Ricca dies, and this little clique under that's loyal to Paul Ricca starts getting knocked off like crazy. Richard Cain. Richard Cain got shot in a sandwich shop, and he was a long-time Giancana associate. He had ran messages back and forth when he was down in Mexico. And Richard Cain, and another interesting sidelight, he had connection to the CIA and to the JFK assassination and to this whole plot to kill Castro. So there's a lot of smoke in there. How much fire there is, I don't know, around the Castro killing, the JFK assassination, and this clique of Paul Ricca, Sam Giancana, Richard Cain, Chuck Nicoletti, all those guys. I don't know. Now, a lot of people will say, and I think Bill Romer claimed, that Harry Edelman was the hitman in that. So who knows? So that's the story about Chuck, the typewriter Nicoletti, a Chicago outfit hitman. He's buried at Mount Carmel Cemetery in Hillsdale, Illinois. I like to ride motorcycles. So don't forget, guys, I like to ride motorcycles. So if you're out there on the streets in your car, look out for motorcycles. If you have a problem with PTSD and you've been in the service, be sure and go to the VA website and get that hotline number. And hand in hand with PTSD goes drug and alcohol addiction. Well, former Gambino soldier Anthony Ruggiano has a hotline on his website and I believe his YouTube channel. And he also is a drug and alcohol counselor down in Florida. So maybe you can have him as your drug and alcohol counselor. Wouldn't that be something? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Reach out and touch us on our Facebook group. We got 30,000 people on it. There's a lot of interesting conversations. I always watch stuff that's on there and comment. And I have a couple other administrators that help me with that. So, just get involved with Gangland Wire. I really appreciate all your support over the last several years. We're coming up on our, I want to say, 8th year, maybe this next year, for sure 7th, but I think it's our 8th year this next year. Oh, it's been a ride, and we're going to keep her going. Thanks, guys.